So you were at the White House, the counsel for Nixon, when he was obsessed with leaks, which led to Watergate, his resignation, etc. So how is this different from Nixon's enemy list?
It's very different. First of all, Nixon's list was just a list. He really never got beyond collecting names and assembling them and tossing them into a file drawer. I can't think of any instance where, maybe with the exception of Larry O'Brien, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, he ever did anything. So that's one distinction. The other is, I can't recall Nixon ever going after a member of Congress, particularly using the tactic of a grand jury subpoena to fish around and see if you could find a leak. The problem is with leaks is we don't have an official secrets act in this country. Leaks are are prosecuted under a really kind of tortured interpretation of an old 1917 statute. That's the only thing that's on the books. Congress has tried. Bill Clinton rejected an effort to put an official secrets act on the books. So that's the only time I can recall there even being an attempt, and that didn't go very far. So we don't have an act to deal with, a law to deal with leaks. So it's sort of a sort of a rigged up thing when they go after them. So those are some of the big differences. So this looks more like harassment or just fishing, trying to look for some trouble, trying to cause some trouble for these members that were really perceived enemies by Trump.
So in this case, based on the published reports, there seems to be, a variation of levels of cooperation here. So do you believe the Inspector General investigating this will be able to ultimately get to the bottom of this and all those who participated?
Well, since a number of the people apparently are still at the Department of Justice, it's very likely he can go a long way in understanding exactly what happened and why it happened. He cannot probably get Bill Barr to cooperate, or Jeff Sessions if Sessions was involved, because they're outside of the department. He has no subpoena power per se. He can't really force them to cooperate. The Congress could get the answer to those questions, although they'll likely fight a subpoena from Congress, and with success. We just saw Don McGahn take over 2 years before he would appear before Congress when he decided to fight a congressional subpoena. I'm actually, Fred, very surprised Congress isn't busy working on that problem, because it's a problem that affects both parties, and they just don't seem to be able to get their act together to be able to really enforce oversight because of the weakness of their subpoena power.
And in continuing to make comparisons and contrasts, in the days of Nixon, Republicans, did not embrace what that president had done and sought to reveal it, end it. Do you see any potential for a similar course of action involving Republicans of today, now that the cat is, so to speak, out of the bag?
There's a little myth around how much Republicans actually did to try to force Nixon to do the right thing. Nixon had really made that decision by himself before Republicans started leaning on him and telling him that he didn't have any support on Capitol Hill. It's worse today. I can't imagine, after watching 2 impeachment proceedings where they exonerated a president who was conspicuously proven to have violated or committed high crimes and misdemeanors, and they refused to convict. So it's not likely that this Republican Party is going to do anything about this. In fact, they'll probably fight it.
And then how do you see the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland handling this situation so that it is strictly probative, based on law, and no inferences on politics?
Well, a lot of the inner workings of government have relied on norms, just standards of behavior that are accepted and understood. This is the way it's going to proceed. I think a lot of those norms after Trump are going to have to be adopted as laws. And whether this Congress can do it, or whether, if Democrats actually win more in 2022, which is probably what is necessary, some of those norms are going to end up as laws, and that will make very clear guardrails, as opposed to just the goodwill of the parties assuming they'll stay within the guardrails.